Hi, I'm Gerd Tundle, acclaimed health journalist, turned motivational speaker, and transformational coach. This show is for anyone who wants to lead a happier, healthier, and inspired life. Create more self-love, inject more joy and abundance into their daily life. Join me for inspiring interviews and spiritual topics so you can become a soul warrior. Hello and welcome to another show of the Get Inspired with Gerds podcast. I'm your host, and today I have a special guest with me who is guiding people towards inner peace and personal development. Davidji is an internationally recognised stress management expert, meditation teacher and author who has helped thousands of people around the world to perform at higher levels and make better decisions and experience abundance. He's a presenter on Hay House Radio, and his teachings on stress release and mindfulness are now practiced in many of the top Fortune 500 companies, and he understands what it takes to heal from within. David, it's an absolute pleasure having you on my show, and thank you for joining us.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Bless you, David. I really love the work that you're doing, and I'd love for the listeners to know, what was your life like before you became a meditation teacher and a stress management expert?
Well, it was actually pretty stressful. I had started meditating when I was in college. It was an experimental Asian studies class. There were 12 of us in the class. We sat in a circle on the floor, and our Zen master stood in the corner watching us. We were instructed to raise our hand when we had a thought pop into our head, and in his hand he carried an 18-inch bamboo stick known as a keisaku, and so when we raised our hand, because we had a thought, he would come over and thwack us on the back. So I only lasted in that school of meditation a couple of weeks.
Wow.
I found myself lying to my Zen master that I wasn't having thoughts. And I think when you're lying to your Zen master, it's time to move on. And so over the years, I explored all these other different types of meditation techniques. I explored mantra and mindfulness and tantra and candle gazing and even chocolate and champagne meditations, all sorts of different types of things. And I slowly got more involved in the corporate world, and I became a bond trader. And I started doing that for a while, and then I got more deeply into that and became a mergers and acquisitions advisor. And then suddenly at a certain point, I realized that I had traded in my morning meditation routine for an early morning train ride to the World Trade Center, and I traded in my evening meditation routine for a double scotch. And like that, my meditation was gone, and so was balance gone in my life. And in the wake of 9/11, I was walking in Lower Manhattan, actually in an area of Lower Manhattan known as Soho, and I was walking past a row of cardboard boxes that people were living in. And as I walked past this particular box, a hand reached out and grabbed my pant leg, and this face peered up at me and said, "What's going to be on your tombstone?" And it's a fairly reflective question. Considering I was wondering, what am I going to do with my life anyway? I'm not really feeling fulfilled. I'm working just to make money. I don't have any purpose involved in that process. I have some deep, deep sadness from the events of 9/11. And, a whole bunch of things swirled through me. And I went home that night, and I shared this with my wife, and she said, "Oh, you should just quit your job. You should go to this retreat that Deepak Chopra is having in Oxford, England." And I had never heard of Deepak Chopra before. Wow. And so I'm very obedient. I quit my job. I headed off to Oxford. And because it was right after 9/11, instead of there being 1,000 people at this week-long meditation retreat, there were only a handful of us. And that was truly an amazing aspect because I really got some good quality time with Deepak over the course of these days. And I really a real appreciation for Oxford. We spent all those days in those old Harry Potter-like buildings with the sliver windows and, those giant lawnmowers, mowing tens of thousands of acres of lawn. And that was really my first deep introduction into meditating for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day. And it was the middle of the summer, I guess the end of the summer. And it was still pretty warm in those buildings. I remember at one point I got up to close one of the windows, even though it was like 90 degrees inside the building. And Deepak said, "Where are you going?" I said, I'm going to close the window. We can hear the mowers, and they're encroaching on my meditation. And he said, "Oh, don't worry about that. There's no difference between those mowers and me whispering in your ear or a baby crying. These are all just sounds or thoughts, so just come back to your mantra." And so over the days, my heart got lighter. My meditation practice grew a little bit. And at the end of that experience, Deepak advised me to go to India. I was still searching for purpose and for meaning, so I headed off to India in search of the guru. I did sort of like my eat, pray, love little adventure without the eating and the love. Just a lot of prayer, looking for answers. And after about 6 months, cruising high and low, talking to, roadside rishis and bathing in holy pools and praying every morning and meditating and practicing yoga, it all came to me while I was lying in a hammock in a cashew forest in southern India, in Kerala. I was reading the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 48, and the line is, Yogastha Kuru Karmani, which means establish yourself in the present moment. And then perform action. And that was like my big aha moment. So I raced back home to New York and started meditating every single day. And I realized, just establish yourself in the present moment and then perform action. And a friend of mine said, you should learn to teach meditation. You do it all day long. And I said, I'm from New York. I don't really care about anyone else's meditation. New Yorkers are self-absorbed. And he said, well, if you really want to learn something, learn to teach it. So why don't you go reconnect with Deepak Chopra? So I went out to visit Deepak Chopra in California, and we hit it off. It was a love connection, and I never left. I became his chief operating officer of his center in time. I was studying every single day and really learning with all these masters on a constant basis, and I got the gift to teach every single day. And so then I became the lead educator, and then I became the dean of Chopra Center University. And that was just like those 10 years were so powerful, so amazing, so, so deep that at a certain point I said, you know what, now I want to travel the world and share these teachings with everyone else throughout the world. So that was it. I started doing a Hay House radio show. Louise Hay invited me to do a radio show on Hay House Radio, and then she invited me to write a book that Hay House published, and I just began my journey traveling the world, teaching meditation and sharing meditation, and now I've shared, with hundreds of thousands of people. I've recorded, almost 1,000 guided meditations. I've written a couple of books. I've worked with the Dutch Special Forces, with the military, with law enforcement, taught in the corporate world. And so here I am now, back teaching again in the corporate world. I know there's so much stress, and I work with high-pressured individuals. I work with people who are experiencing a lot of stress. And that's actually why I wrote, one of my books, De-Stressifying, to help people really, connect to that. And, Secrets of Meditation, which is being released on March 7th, which is really more of a spiritual journey when we're suddenly realizing that there's so much more to life than what we thought there was. And so that's pretty much brings us to today.
Wow, what an amazing journey. And it's just so powerful to hear that you just was like, right, I'm done now with my old life. I'm ready to move on, not really sure where you're heading. And you just trusted the process.
Yeah, well, I think at heart, we're all a little bit of a control freak. There's, we crave certainty, we crave control. And, I know that we can really control our outlook, but we can't control the outcome. And that's really where meditation comes in as a powerful tool to help us really get grounded in our outlook and start trusting in the universe and trusting in our brilliance and stepping into our best version, making that commitment to step into our best version. Don't dim our light and own our impact.
I can relate with a lot of things that you're saying because I actually used to be in the journalism world, and for a short period of time I worked in the corporate world as well, and it took me to collapse on the floor 3 times and to have a cancer scare to realise I need to leave. But like you said, I was trying to control my life, so I was just like, this is the way I want to go, and I wasn't allowing anything else. But it took for those moments for me to realise that I needed to shift.
Yeah, I don't know that that's actually helpful to hit bottom, and to suddenly, pain is a powerful motivator. But I think that people can also get that aha moment when they realize, what, my relationship that I have, my core relationship with myself, my belief in what I believe I can do, my relationships with all the people I live with or work with, they can be much better. I can be happier. I don't have to keep pointing fingers at all the things that make me unhappy outside of me. I can actually go deeper inside and connect to that magnificent stillness and silence. And it comes back to that line, chapter 2, verse 48 in the ancient Indian text, the Bhagavad Gita, Yogastha Kuru Karmani. Yoga-sta means just establish yourself in the presence. Establish yourself in the present moment. Get still. And then perform action. And a lot of times reactive, where we say to someone, you make me so angry. And, the reality is no one can make us do anything. We get to control our response and our reaction to the world around us. And meditation can really help you with that gift. Meditation can give you the confidence, the courage, the stillness, the patience, these powerful virtues. Meditation can help cultivate them so you can live your life with greater grace and greater ease.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you for that. My dear, so you're now obviously a meditation teacher and a stress management expert. So how are you helping people to stay calm and relaxed? What is it that you kind of share with them?
Yeah, well, I think it has to, we have to get to a space where we're just willing to try it. That's really the key. We can try it right now. There's a beautiful technique that I've shared with hundreds of thousands of people around the world. I've shared it with Marines who are not necessarily into some woo-woo spiritual life. I've shared it with a lot of people, very serious people in the corporate world who are just looking to have an edge. I've shared it with high-performance athletes, triathletes and people who are just trying to raise their game to a higher level. And so we can do it right now. And this technique will teach you the power of meditation as it also really connects you to the present moment. So it works like this. Why don't we just think about something that's been bothering us a little bit this week. Maybe it's a conversation that we had. Maybe a person said they were going to do something and they didn't. Maybe something was supposed to unfold, but it didn't. Just some type of irritation. You can get pretty clear on that. And as you feel that crystallize in your mind's eye, close your eyes, and through your nose, take a long, slow, deep breath in, and watch that breath as it moves down into your belly. And when it gets there, hold it, and watch it, and witness it. And then release that breath and watch it move up your chest, out your throat, out of your nostrils. And then hold that breath out and just continue to observe it and watch it and witness it as it dissipates into the ether. Breathe normally and open your eyes. And that was only 16 seconds. And in those 16 seconds, if you were playing along, you were not in the past, you were not in the future. In fact, in those 16 seconds, you were most likely not thinking about that irritation or that person that had been bothering you. Because science has now confirmed that it's impossible to be fully present, and that's what we were while we were watching our breath, and think about the past or the future. We can only be in one place at one time. And so, when I teach that to someone in the corporate world who doesn't take a break at all, they never breathe, none of us breathe as much as we should, but they never take any break, they suddenly realize, just in 16 seconds, I can stop the flow of hormones that are making me stressed out, and I can be fully present. And so that's an easy starting point for everybody.
I love that. So when you've worked with certain people and they've never done meditation before, how do they react after you've just done that with them?
Well, I've branded that as 16 seconds. That's what I call it. And, even the busiest person on the planet, no matter who they are, Richard Branson meditates, Oprah Winfrey meditates, some of these most really connected people who are very, very, very busy, they find comfort and clarity in the stillness and silence. So I tell people, that was just 16 seconds. If you do it 4 times, it's a minute. If you do it 20 times, it's 5 minutes. And we can all benefit from this concept of the pattern interrupt. Science is now proving that if we introduce these interruptions in our default activity mechanisms, that when we come back, we are clearer. We know what it's like if you're sitting in the movie theater and you're watching a movie and suddenly you're like, oh, who's that actress? Oh, what's her name? Oh, it's eluding me. Oh, I think she played Elizabeth. Oh, and then someone says, hey, you want some popcorn? And you reach over to get some popcorn, and suddenly you look back at the screen and you go, oh, Kate Blanchett, of course. And so by breaking away, when we come back clearer. By breaking away, by introducing any type of interruption. We know what it's like if we're having an intense moment with a colleague or with a family member, and if we just, take a breather, take a walk, go to the loo, pick your item to break the moment. When we come back, there's new energy that comes back with us, and that gives us the strength, the courage. It creates another flow of energy where there can be new possibilities and where there can be a new conversation where we're not stuck. That's why there's recess. That's why there's a break in the action. That's why, we have built into our day, it's so funny, built into our work day, there's supposed to be all these breaks that flow through to give us a few moments to recharge. But most of us, we wake up, we burn through the day, we get home, and we pass out. That's it.
Would you say that a lot of people who are working in their, the corporate world, whatever job that they're doing, that they're picking up other people's energy, and so when they do get home, they're feeling drained because of that, because they've not, like you said, taken time out to realise that they just need to be calm in themselves?
Yes. We are massive energy absorbers, and yet we don't have to be. We have this untapped energy pool resting inside of us. So that's why I say that meditation is not taking a time out. Meditation is a time in. We go in, and that's where we can recharge. And I know there's been so much excitement, through England regarding Brexit, and we've had our own little excitement here in the United States, around our most recent election as well. And if we allow ourselves to get swept up by every single thing outside of us, then we don't have our own lives. When we find ourselves pointing at something and blaming or yelling or being mean-spirited, imagine if we just took that moment to go inside and connect to our heart or connect to our ownness, just to connect to our own calm and ask ourselves, here I am in this sacred, precious, present moment. What am I going to do with it? Not pointing at someone else, blaming them for ruining my life or changing things. And it's easier to point outside. It's easier to feel wronged. But we can always right that by going deep inside. Because inside of us, if we can just quiet the fluctuations of our mind, and we do this effortlessly, just like we did it with 16 seconds. I didn't say to you, now stop thinking about that irritation. I just said, close your eyes and watch your breath. So we didn't have to do anything to connect to that space of stillness and silence. And if we can do that on a consistent basis, we suddenly realize that happiness is an inside job. And we can not take on the burden of absorbing everyone else's energy, we can, sort of like, like a bullfighter, moves to the side and says, okay, and the bull moves past. We can allow that stuff to move past us. Tai Chi is the same way. You allow the energy to move past you rather than absorbing the hit and taking it on. And so, we take on everyone's emotions. We take on everyone's issues. We take on everyone's problems. We take on that mob mentality when people are outraged. We're like, I'm outraged too. Let's all be outraged together. But the solution to our pain and the solution to our outrage and our disappointment and our sadness and our frustration, the solution is that seed of stillness and clarity that comes from within. Because then we can move into the moment with a deeper understanding. We can move in with greater compassion. And when someone says, something or to us or challenges our ego or perhaps says something that disappoints us or hurts us, we don't have to take it, so seriously. The great author Don Miguel Ruiz, he's the author of the Four Agreements. One of those agreements is don't take anything personally. And the reasoning behind that is because, you're in your dream and I'm in my dream. Everyone's in their own dream. So when someone says something to you that hurts your feelings, the reality is, they're in their dream. Their dream has nothing to do with my dream. And if someone says something really mean-spirited at you or demeaning to you, imagine how their self-worth is so low that they find the need to push you down even lower than that. So in those moments, rather than striking back or barking back, we have some compassion and say, oh, you must be in a lot of pain to be so mean to me. Let me give you a hug.
It's amazing, as you were saying that, it took me back to a time when I used to work in a pharmacy, David, and I was really young. I was about 17 years old, and I remember always coming back home really tired and drained, and I didn't understand why. And I hadn't realised that because everybody who was coming to the pharmacy was obviously had a cough or a cold, or they were looking for some sort of medication, that I ended up picking up that energy, and I didn't realise how I needed to release it. So what happened for those few years was that I kind of almost burdened those energies in myself, which ended up causing me having anemia or feeling fatigue for several years. And it's so true what you said, that with meditation, what I found over the years is that when I meditated, I wouldn't react to anything, and I would be clear and I'd be happy, and it didn't matter whoever's energy it was, it didn't affect me anymore, because meditation kept me calm throughout the day.
Right. We know that feeling. We know when we're feeling really full, we're not venting, we're not pointing fingers, we're not blaming, we're feeling great. We just want to shout it from the rooftops. So we know what that's like. We've all been there before. We just have to remind ourselves when we find ourselves in some of those lower moments that, wait, this doesn't have to be me. I know that when I'm full and when my heart is full and when I'm feeling really good and connected to the universe and to life in general, when I realize that the universe is in me, that I am not a speck in the universe, that's when everything shifts.
Absolutely. Can you tell us about your new book, The Secrets of Meditation?
Yeah, well, I found, I've explored so many different techniques, and I've explored so many different, it's so interesting. I've explored so many different schools and philosophies over the years, hundreds of them. And I've practiced many of them, sometimes for a few weeks and sometimes for a few years. And I've found that, each school of meditation has its own rules or its own dogma. And I wanted to share a book that explored them all so that people could make their own choice. Because I believe that if everyone could find the technique that really resonates with them, everyone would meditate. But I've bumped into more people who are crisis meditators, and they don't really meditate. They only meditate when there's a crisis. And they have a lot of crises because of that. So I wanted to really put a book out there that explored every single different type of meditation that I thought people could take advantage of, whether that's whether that's mindful eating, whether that's aromatherapy meditations, whether that's chocolate tasting, or receiving a massage, or using a mantra, or doing mindfulness and following your breath. And I don't have an agenda. I don't really care about which school someone adapts to. I think it's, we all get to choose. I just want people to connect to meditation in whatever the way is that makes them feel really comfortable. And so that's really why I put that out. It's got the 5 myths of meditation. I've got rituals and practices that people can do to start their practice in the morning by asking sacred questions and using affirmations to keep them engaged in being their best version. There's a whole bunch of very, very ancient techniques and modern psychological practices to suddenly switch us, like stress busters, to suddenly turn us from being like, oh, poor me, to empowered. And so that's right. I wanted to put it out there without an agenda, because every time I got involved in any school of meditation, after a while, they started bogging me down with all the rules. And, I find that the rules have kept more people from meditating than have kept people in meditating. So, the book is called Secrets of Meditation, but it might as well be called, the Rule Breaker's Bible to Meditation. So, choose your... and I talk about, how to ritualize it and how to connect to it. And for me, that was a very, very powerful and a filled journey just to write that book.
I love the bit where you said about that it's about breaking the rules, because I found that when I first started meditating, funny enough, I've been doing it since I was a kid, because my background is I'm Sikh, and when I was growing up, I didn't really understand what was going on. I'd go to the temple and just sit there, but I was meditating without realising. And I went through a journey where I just, like yourself, kind of went in the corporate world and I went a bit downhill. And when I got it back into meditation, I found that when I did go to a few classes, like you said, there was rules, and I was just like, I want to do meditation the way it feels right for me. So I just started meditating at home. I had no idea, and I was trying lots of different techniques, and I found that finding my own technique and incorporating different things from different people actually made me want to do it more. It just took me on a different journey, and there's a lot of people that I know who are trying to meditate, and they've gone to events and they felt amazing for 3 days, and then they'll go find somebody, but then, like you said, it's the rules. That's what stops people.
Yeah, and I think if we remind ourselves, oh no, this is my practice, just because, and that's why, I have this Masters of Wisdom in Meditation teacher training, because I want people to take a thread from each of the philosophies and weave their own practice out of that. If we can just select the stuff that works for us, then our practices, whatever they are, even our workouts, if you suddenly went to a strength training coach and he said, okay, now lift that barbell 100 times. And you'd say, but that doesn't feel good or feel right. Can't I work myself up? And he said, no, the rule is you must lift it 100 times. You'd say, forget it. I'm not going to do this. And, so many schools of meditation that I've been to, they say, okay, now that you've learned to meditate, do that every day for 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon, and good luck. See ya. And, the first day you miss it, you're like, I'm such a loser. and that's why I encourage people to not beat themselves up. It's so common to fall off the meditation wagon. We just have to be gentle with ourselves, and incrementally. When I teach people to meditate, I actually start them with 16 seconds. And then I say, no, do that just once a day. 16 seconds, once a day.
Wow.
Do that for a week, and next week we'll add a minute to it. So the next week they do a minute and 16 seconds for 7 straight days.
Wow.
And then that's pretty easy. And then I say, then let's add another minute. And so suddenly the 3rd week and the 4th week and the 5th week, and suddenly after like 10 weeks, it's like in like 2 months, they have a 10-minute locked down practice that feels so comfortable and so good to them. And it wasn't painful. And they did it their way. And they enjoyed it. And so, ultimately I encourage people, to build a practice where you're meditating for 25 minutes in the morning, 25 minutes in the afternoon. But we have to work up to it, and we have to be patient with ourselves, and we have to really be gentle with the practice, and let's break some rules. Meditation should be fun. It's so interesting on Facebook. Every once in a while, I'll put a post up and I'll say, "Make meditation fun again." And there'll be someone who comments, "Meditation's not supposed to be fun. It's very serious." And I'm like, who wants to do that? It's a chore at that point, and I don't want to, instruct people on doing a chore.
Yeah.
So, I think we can find so many different ways to meditate and so many different ways to connect to our inner self that we shouldn't torture ourselves over anybody's rules.
I love that. And where can my listeners find the book?
Well, you can find the book anywhere that books are sold. You can find it on davidji.com, davidji.com. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on iTunes, I think in digital format. There's even an audio book that I recorded as well. So there are a lot of different ways for people to access. Actually, the audio book was great for me because I had, edited the book and written the book and edited the book and written the book and rewritten the book and edited the book. But to sit down and read it, I would have loved, Sir Ben Kingsley or Jeremy Irons, of course, to be reading my book. But to read my book out loud really just engaged it so deeply inside of me. And I had so much fun doing that, telling my story and really teaching these teachings. But you can do it anywhere where books are sold. I think there's even a site, audible.com. You can even get it. So any place you can get a book, you can get Secrets of Meditation.
Perfect. We are coming towards the end of the show. It's gone so quick. My last two questions are, what are you most grateful for at this moment?
That's so great. Every morning I wake up and I do a gratitude practice. It's just the start of my day. Science is now proving. There's a great book by Michelle Gielan, who's a happiness teacher. It's called Broadcasting Happiness. And she did this amazing study that if the first images you look at when you wake up are violent or negative, at the end of the day, when someone says, "So, how was your day?" no matter what's happened, you're 40% more likely to say that your day was bad.
Wow.
And if you see positive imagery, no matter what else happens in your day, you're 20% more likely to say, "Oh, I had a great day," no matter what else happened. So that's why, I think it's important. You can wake up and watch videos of puppies or cats. You can, watch, uplifting things. But I start my day in stillness and silence by asking myself just two basic questions. I start with, what am I grateful for? And I just keep asking that question over and over and let answers flow. And after a couple of minutes, I ask, who am I grateful for? And I just keep asking that question and let answers flow. And then I do some other heart-opening practices, and then I go into meditation. But right now, I'm so grateful that I was just in the island of Hawaii teaching at a festival. And there were 3,000 people that I'd never met before. It's not really my venue, and I've never been there before, the Wanderlust Festival. And I just came back yesterday, and I'm still basking in that glow of such deep gratitude that people who didn't even know who I was, by the hundreds, were willing to show up for all of my classes and all of my sessions and all of my meditations. And so that made me feel really excited, and so I'm really grateful that people trusted in their hearts and that they trusted in the universe to connect to this body of knowledge and to embrace it, which is timeless. I didn't invent it. I'm just a courier of it. But sometimes in a humorous way, sometimes in a storytelling way, and always in a practical application. So I'm really grateful that those few thousand people really connected, and that I was able to be a conduit of love and a conduit of timeless wisdom to those people.
Oh, I really love that. That's so nice. My last question is, what are your 5 top tips for someone who's new into meditation and they don't really know where to start?
Where would you start? Well, again, we have to remember that meditation is essentially taking a pattern interrupt. So connecting to the present moment. So my first tip would be to practice 16 seconds, that technique that we just did. You can do that while you're sitting in traffic. You can do that while you're waiting on a line. You can do it while you're sitting at a meeting. You can do that while you're at the dinner table. You can do it, in any place. And it will get you out of your head and into your heart. And so that's probably tip number one. Tip number two would be, there's a great technique that I would suggest. It's also a meditation technique. Don't do this while you're driving because you must close your eyes to do it. But if you slowly breathe in, we can do it right now. If you slowly breathe in and allow your inhale breath to flow into your exhale breath, and then allow that to flow into your inhale, and just seamlessly allow the in and the out and the in and the out to flow into each other, and do that silently. The only way you could truly do it silently without it making any noise in your nostrils is to do it so slow. And I call this quiet, continuous breathing.
I love that.
And if we then close our eyes, tip number 3, and now paint a ribbon of breath in the shape of an infinity sign laying on its side. Watch that breath move through the infinity sign as you inhale and exhale, and stay in that space. And that's also a great technique to use if you can't fall asleep at night.
Wow.
Another technique that I would use is to definitely put on headphones and blast The Clash full volume, and feel free to pick any of their amazing. Clash is my favorite group. Put on The Clash and just bust it out. Typically, I like blasting like Police and Thieves or something, along those lines. But you can pick your tune on that. But enjoy. If you don't like The Clash, or if you never heard of The Clash, come on, get on with it. But pick your music and jump around, dance. Songs are typically 3 to 5 minutes. Elvis Costello's are like 2 minutes. But if you are willing to just like plug in and just jump around, that's a great pattern interrupt, because it'll totally raise your heartbeat, pull you out of whatever you were doing, shift your energy, ideally, really uplift you. Even Adele, crank Adele. I don't know if people in England are sick of Adele, but I'm so in love with Adele, I can't stand it. And she's one of those one-named people. I'm Davidji, she's Adele, so I love one-named people. But anyway, you just blast that music, and after 5 minutes, just sit back down and re-engage. That's tip number 4. And tip number 5 is to ask yourself this question. What would my best version do right now? What would the best version of me do? My best version never has to be right. My best version never needs to teach a lesson. My best version never feels less than. My best version always leads with love, is compassionate, soars in every moment, is brilliant, has spontaneous right speech, spontaneous right thought, spontaneous right action. What would my best version do right now? And just listen to the answer and step into your power.
Wow. I love those 5 top tips. Thank you for sharing those.
Oh, my pleasure.
And where can my listeners find you?
Well, you can follow me on Facebook. It's Davidji. Actually, I think I have like 5 different Facebook pages, but my page is Davidji, one word. You can follow me on Instagram at Davidji Meditation. You can visit me at davidji.com, and there are over 150 free guided meditations. Some are as short as 5 minutes, many as long as a half hour. So depending on what you're trying to do, and they all have a different theme to them. They all have a certain amount of stillness and a technique that I teach, whether it's following your breath or listening to music or repeating a mantra. And so, whatever makes you feel good in that moment. And you can sign up to join the Davidji Sweet Spot community. It's free, And every week I send you a meditation and a video and a lesson of timeless wisdom. And you can always unsubscribe, and I'll never share your data with anyone. And otherwise, I'll be traveling around, and I'll be coming to London on April 1st and 2nd at the Toynbee Studio. And I'm trying to hook up with a venue the Friday night before that, which I think is March 31st. And so you can follow all of that. I'll be with Yog Sundar, Julia Anastasiou, who's really an amazing British yoga teacher, meditation teacher of Ayurveda. She and I traveled around India this past summer together for about 10 days. We took a group of 30, and that was an interesting exercise, herding cats. We went to some of the most sacred and beautiful places together, and she's a dear friend of mine, and she's been a student of mine for many, many years, and she's a brilliant teacher.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing your story and just reminding us why it's so powerful to just take your power and be mindful and be present.
Yeah, in the beautiful, Lao Tzu had a beautiful quote. Do you have the patience to wait until your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving until the right action arises by itself? And I think if we can just remind ourselves that we transform the world by transforming ourselves, then we can certainly walk through this sweet world with greater grace and greater ease.
Thank you so much, Davidji. I look forward to having you on the show again. Just truly, you're amazing at what you do, and just thanks for sharing everything.
Thank you so much for inviting me on the show. You know, you are transforming the world because you've transformed yourself, and you continue to evolve every single day. So thank you for the gift that you share with all of your listeners.
Oh, bless you.
Gratitude.
Thank you.
What an amazing interview with Davidji. Guys, definitely do check out his website and check out when he's in the UK. Unfortunately, that's the end of the show. Don't forget you can find me on Twitter at IamGurds, that's IamGurds. You can find me on Facebook at Get Inspired with Gurds, where I bring you lots of inspirational, motivational quotes and tips about life. And also check out my book on Amazon, which is called Educo, Educo. And before I leave, I want to leave you with this quote. Where there is peace and meditation, there is neither anxiety nor doubt. Take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye!